if you're operating a restaurant, you're looking for cost savings to have more profit, but you should also be thinking about, where do I get incremental revenue?
Welcome to the Financial Advantage with GSS, the video series designed for CFOs and financial leaders in the restaurant industry who are committed to optimizing operations, enhancing financial strategies, and driving sustainable growth. Each episode explores the complexities of restaurant finance through expert insights, real-world success stories, and in-depth conversations with industry leaders. From managing compliance to scaling operations, we provide actionable strategies to help your business stay ahead in a competitive market. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Financial Advantage. Once again, I'm Nick, and I am super excited about today's episode. And we're going to get right into it. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at restaurant turnarounds and improving ROI in today's business landscape. And I'm very excited about our guest that's going to be joining us. He is the managing partner at BlackThorne Strategic. And without further ado, welcome Mr. David Drinan. David, how you doing, buddy?
Thank you, Nick. I'm great. Happy Friday to you.
Oh, it's been a long week, but yeah, happy Friday, my man. So, hey, I mean, for our guests and our audience out there that are going to listen to this, why don't you do them a favor? Just fill them in with some background on yourself. Where did you come in? How did you stumble into this business, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, sounds good. It's quite a journey, so bear with me on this. Started my career in finance, investing in growth stocks, tech, telecom, and consumer in the late 90s. And that was a good time to be in the growth sector. Went to business school and discovered entrepreneurship and venture capital. And that's also highly analytical, but it's also more hands-on, where you can impact the growth of a business and the outcome of these businesses. So I took a job with a company called Partners Group. Partners Group is a private equity fund of funds. I was on their venture capital team. And this was 2001, so it turned out to be not a great time to be in venture capital, and a big step removed from being a VC. We invested in their funds. We learned a lot about how they created value, how they sourced deals, and what their particular skills were that drove value for their investments. So with that, I went into corporate restructuring. So this was these are environments where companies are running out of cash. They're over-levered. They have way too much debt to really be a viable business. And 9 times out of 10, they're undermanaged. They need help doing the basics. And they've been suffering for so long that they just haven't been doing the basics. So it's an interesting space. It's super hands-on. It was a great fit for me. I enjoyed helping save companies, helping save jobs, and driving some really quick improvements in these businesses, things that you would expect management to be doing, managing cash, collecting receivables, managing their inventory. So all those things were fun and interesting. Eventually you find out that it's not really an environment to grow companies, because to grow a company, you generally have to invest in sales and marketing and new product development and information technology investments to move these companies forward. So we would essentially do the, cash preservation, figure out what the company needs to be or should be when it exits, restructure the balance sheet, and then we would move on and new management would come in. So really interesting experiences overall. But I wanted to get back to growth. So I've taken a couple of detours out of the restructuring turnaround world. The first one was profit improvement consulting for restaurants. So a friend of mine is an activist investor. He was activist in Denny's and Red Robin, Steak and Shake, BJ's Restaurants, Famous Dave's. And he would take a board seat and encourage management to do things to boost the stock price. One of those was introducing me and my team along with a couple of our competitors, and ask management to, select someone who can go after costs. So we went after costs across the board, every cost you can imagine in a restaurant business. And we used two major tools: strategic sourcing and labor efficiency. So we learned a lot through that process. We got great results for the business. And ironically, we weren't looking at growing the top line. We were focused on costs. And also ironically, this was 15 years ago, we weren't thinking about technology. We were just thinking about working with vendors and managing labor costs better. So fast forward few years, and I had an investment banking license and a network in the restaurant industry. I started raising growth equity capital for restaurant businesses. So restaurants that had high margins and high growth opportunities, typically sold a lot of alcohol that has high margins and had good revenue per unit. Those were the restaurant deals that I was doing. And then restaurant tech came my way. So the first one was GoParrot, and GoParrot is a digital ordering platform. This was pre-pandemic. So I worked with them. They raised capital, eventually sold to Square, worked with Bebot. They sold to DoorDash, worked with SnackPass, the founder, as well as Menu. And this was interesting, right? Turned out that a lot of competition came into that space, and I wanted to look outside of digital ordering platforms into other subsectors of restaurant technology. So I did the deep dive into voice AI, into business intelligence solutions, into vision AI, into automation technology, et cetera, et cetera. So came out of that with an eye towards voice AI, automation, and some AI tools. And that's where I've spent a lot of my time over the last 8 years.
Well, you took a deep dive into technology.
That's indeed. I mentioned a few of the subsectors. It's funny, I was looking through the list one time, and at the time, there were 850 restaurant technology companies that were on my list. And I had conversations with 400 plus restaurant tech CEOs. So I ended up with all those conversations, a kind of a really deep knowledge of what are the drivers for restaurant technology companies and how do they grow their business, how do they go to market. So it's been quite a journey, and I've been more and more selective on who I work with, and feel like I'm working with some really great, future unicorns right now.
So you're highly entrenched into the technology landscape of the hospitality industry, but you're still obviously tied in with hospitality operations, performance management, etc.
Yeah. So BlackThorne Strategic Advisors, you can see on our website, we have three major activities. The first one is what we call value creation. So we can be hired as interim management or as advisors to assist the company on creating more enterprise value, right? Sometimes those are turnaround situations. Sometimes they're healthy, but they need some help growing the business to create more enterprise value. Two, we advise restaurant technology companies on business plan development, go-to-market strategy. Strategic partnerships tends to be a really big part of that because selling into restaurants is hard. You probably have some experience with that. If you can partner with someone who already has those clients, and it's an easy, hey, you're looking for this service or this technology, these are the folks you should talk to. It goes a long way, right? For them to find you clients instead of for you to go door to door looking for restaurants. So strategic partnerships is a big part of it. And then raising capital. I used to be an investment banker. Now I'm just an advisor, have some shares in the company, and I will help them with introductions, but I'm not their banker.
Well, let's go back to number one. You were talking about value creation.
Yeah.
So let us know, how do you define value creation in restaurants or hospitality industry beyond, and you mentioned this in the beginning, beyond just top line revenue growth? Where's the value sit?
So value creation is, okay, the company is worth X today, typically on a multiple of EBITDA, right? The value of an asset is the net present value of future cash flows, right? So how do you create more value? You create an operating entity that's going to create more EBITDA and continue to grow. So it's two levers, right? It's the cash flow you're generating right now, but also the growth, projected growth, right? So you'll see that in the stock market. Like, why does something trade at 50 times earnings? It's because people expect the earnings to continue to grow. Why do other ones trade at 10 times earnings? Because their earnings are shrinking and people are just like not as interested in investing in a company like that. So the same thing goes in the private market, right? What is a company worth? How much cash flow it can generate and how much that can grow over time. So how do you create enterprise value? Well, there's a lot of mechanisms in the restaurant space. It's essentially, you've got a restaurant unit, and you can expand more units, right? So how do you create great unit economics? Some of it's like the cost of opening, and some of it's the operating cash flow per unit. Those are the two major factors on how quickly you can recoup the investment cost and just have a cash generating asset, right? So you can grow faster the quicker your payback period is. Well, how do you increase profitability is kind of the major question. And there's a whole lot of tools, a whole lot of ways to do that. But I think the starting point for anybody who's undertaking a turnaround is operational excellence is the first step. So the way I define operational excellence is you manage your labor costs, you manage your food costs, you execute with excellence on the consistency and quality of the product so that the customer knows they're going to get that. And then you add a consistent high quality level of customer service. People come into a restaurant for an experience, right? If they're not getting that experience, or if it's different at every location, that diminishes the value of the business, the brand, because people aren't going to come back as often, right?
So be like Chick-fil-A. That's what you're saying.
Chick-fil-A is the industry standard for customer service and for the revenue per unit and all that. They're doing $8 million per unit on average or something insane like that.
Yeah, I'm very familiar.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they also do what you focus on very well, right? They execute the restaurant operations.
Yeah.
And it always seems, I've been very fortunate to do some work with Chick-fil-A in the past, and they notice their inefficiencies very quickly. Mm-hmm. And they either fix their inefficiencies or they take risks to not see any future inefficiencies. They have like this huge, massive warehouse in their corporate campus, and it's called like their hub, and it's where their marketing people sit, their operations managers sit, and they come up with ideas of how to become better than what they are, and also how to fix any of the inefficiencies now. And they scoot around on scooters, and they smile all the time, and they get free Chick-fil-A, and they love it. They love it. I love visiting those guys, but
great energy. Yeah. The one of the components there in hospitality is taking good care of your employees. So of course you want to hire the right people, do the best you can there, train them on the skills that they need and and everything, information that they need to know to do their job well. But taking good care of your employees, who are your frontline workers, who are interacting with your customers, that's the key. Every time. It's if you read Setting the Table or Unreasonable Hospitality, you can learn all about how important it is to take care of your employees, who take care of your customers.
100%.
Chick-fil-A knows it inside and out. They live
I don't know if I told you this. I mean, our listeners know I used to be an owner operator of a franchise myself. And
Chick-fil-A.
Not Chick-fil-A. God, no.
Okay.
No,
No,
I know the owner
might have
operator
retired
of my
by
town.
now if you did.
Well, they actually have a really good setup in place. We won't dive into that, how you can own a Chick-fil-A, but they do it right. Culver's does something super similar, and Culver's is a brand loyal to my heart out of Wisconsin. So, but I was in the smoothie space for a minute,
Okay.
and that I didn't want to try to be like Chick-fil-A, handing them a smoothie and saying my pleasure. But what I really did is I always focused on making sure that my employees were valued, were heard, that it wasn't just punch in, punch out, do a task and leave. It was way beyond that. And what it took was, me leading by example within the unit. And I didn't recognize that at first. I thought I was just going to open up a restaurant, be a side hustle, have management in place and oversee it and cash checks. Then I quickly realized in order to get what you want out of it is you got to show them what you want out of it.
Yeah.
And it took a while, and then I realized, 100 hours a week to continuously show them what you want. It was tough. But
Business.
we're talking about inefficiencies a little bit, especially in restaurant operations. And since you're so close to it as well, especially in the technology space, what are some of those efficiencies you see? What are common ones that you see in restaurant operations?
Yeah, I mean, we saw purchasing, what often happens is over time, purchasing is in fights with their vendors. It's all about price. Can you give me this price? Can you give me that price? And what they don't necessarily stop to do is to say, hey, let's have a conversation. How can we reduce our costs, right? How can we reduce the vendor's costs so that you can pass that on to us, right? So sometimes it's the delivery times, and your vendor, everybody wants their food delivered at 11 a.m. So how many trucks do they have and how many people do they have? It's a bottleneck. It's a constraint for them. So if you're willing to take your food at 9 a.m. or 1 p.m. or whatever it might be, and the number of deliveries, drop-offs per day, and if you've got a distribution center versus dropping off at all your restaurants, like have the conversation. Let's see if there's a way to reduce the costs that can be passed on. Or you've got a logo with 1,000 stitches. Well, if you reduce that to 100 stitches, it's going to cost less, right? So there's definitely, there's always kind of low-hanging fruit from my experience. There's probably some organizations that run that tight at all points in time, but in general, that gets away from restaurants, and they have to get back to it, at least from time to time. Labor efficiency, I think everybody's got the tools to schedule, and then it just comes to the fact that does the general manager have the rapport with their employees in order to actually make those cuts? Right? Because it's painful. Like somebody scheduled themselves to come out for 6 hours, and then you send them home after 4, and they need that income. They want that income. So being open and having those conversations and setting expectations, and then actually making the cuts when the system says it's time to make the cut, right? If the system's smart enough to forecast the future, know when people are going to be showing up, and so managing labor costs that way is probably a big area that some restaurants do very well, some restaurants don't do well.
What tech firm? Let's give them a shout out. You have to know one. What labor platform do you like the best?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know that.
Okay.
I think that there's quite a few good ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I've used so many, and I get calls all of the time. Like when you were saying in the beginning, hey, hitch up with somebody that has leads and a network within the restaurant industry so you can sell into it.
yeah,
I get calls from, startup technology companies. I get calls from whoever it may be, guys trying to sell gloves into
Sure.
the hospitality industry, and they're trying to tap into me and say, hey, who can I call? Do you know anybody?
Yeah.
And all those things. And so I'm familiar with a lot of labor tools.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I
Yeah.
think, generally the systems are pretty easy to use and they make sense and they show the charts and it works. There's probably better ways to communicate changes to your staff. That stuff's being developed as well. So, what I'm doing is kind of more like the forefront of technology. And automation, there's a world where you have fully autonomous restaurants, right? And so, that's a big step, and that's breaking the brand and the food from the customer experience. There's not a lot of hospitality per se, but there's some major benefits on ROI to a restaurant. So if you want to talk about unit economics of a fully autonomous restaurant, opening a restaurant costs you $500,000 plus. Opening a machine costs $350,000, right? And going forward, even if your revenue is less, your margin is so much higher, in the 45 to 50% range, that it's a really disruptive technology that I think people have been hearing about automation, but now it's here. Appatronics, in partnership with Donato's Pizza, launched the fully autonomous pizza restaurant at Columbus Airport June 9th. So a little over a month ago.
Really?
And yeah. The customer response is resoundingly very favorable because the customer loves Donato's Pizza, right? They've loved Donato's Pizza for years and years and years. Built a relationship, the quality, the consistency, the crunch, the flavor. They're into it. So when they see a robotic pizza dispensing machine, they're like, wow, what is that? That's Donato's? I got to check that out. Is it as good as my Donato's? And it is. It's like executed to perfection, consistently. And so you may not get a smile necessarily, but what you do get is you get that fresh, hot pizza right there. It's literally right out of the oven. A little too hot to eat. You want to let it cool down a little bit. But that's bringing smiles. This is bringing smiles to people who love that brand and that food.
Wow. I didn't even know that. We've got right down the road from where I live, we have a fully autonomous coffee shop.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of it, but you walk in and, it's kind of like a vending machine. It's a high-end vending machine, and you hit the buttons and they can make you any drink you want with all the milks, all the stuff.
Okay.
I've never tried it. I'm a little maybe old school, but I see cars there all the time, and they're like, hey, this is just as good, probably less cost, probably faster. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
some
man,
of
now
those
you're
are built for speed and some are built for show, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're built for speed, it can be really good throughput. The first prototype at the airport has one oven, and I think they'll eventually have 3 ovens working simultaneously. So it bakes for 2.5 minutes. The total prep time, start to finish, is around 7 minutes.
Wow. So okay. So there's still an operational leadership role to an autonomous restaurant, right? There's somebody at some level still in charge of the operations of that unit, right?
Yeah, this is just starting out. So there's a lot of people taking a look at it and thinking about it and refining it and things like that. As a go forward model, there has to be a maintenance effort, right? Like maintain the equipment and fixing things. And there's that role. Then there's stocking the food on a daily basis so that it can be, turned into pizza. And maybe there's some level of customer service, right? So if there's somebody out there who's saying, hey, have you ever used this before? Donato's Pizza. If there's some sales effort, that's probably more to get it going than it is an ongoing role.
Well, now all I want to do is focus on this. I'm just trying to think. I mean, I had a bunch of questions about operational leadership and how does that pertain to long-term financial performance. And now it's like, whoa. I'm focusing now on, I mean, one of my questions for you, David, was going to be, what are some of the top tech tools that have transformed the hospitality industry? And you just said it.
This is one of them.
Autonomous. Yeah, that's one of them. Are there any other?
Yeah, I mean, there's another one that if you're operating a restaurant, you're looking for cost savings to have more profit, but you should also be thinking about, where do I get incremental revenue, right? So fully autonomous beverage system called BotRista, BOTRISTA. BotRista, they enable restaurant brands to offer a craft beverage menu, right? So think about like boba teas and refreshers that have fruit purees mixed with teas and lemonades. You can do coffee programs in that. And so it's bags in a box delivered into this machine, special nozzle to hook it in, and press of a button, you're getting the drink. So the founder, he was a fluid dynamics expert at Tesla working on their batteries, and he had boba tea shops. And he thought to himself, boba tea shops doesn't make any sense because it takes 3 to 4 minutes to make a boba tea, and it's very inconsistent, like what ingredients are in it. So I need a machine to do this faster and more consistently. So he built this, and the fluid dynamics expertise is dispensing those high viscosity fluids. Coke machines are very thin, right? Like the syrups are thin, but this is more, there's a lot of technology behind it. So it allows restaurants to give the drinks that everybody wants. You see people walking around New York and LA and Miami with these refreshers, these colorful drinks. They might have got them from Starbucks or from Seven Brews or wherever. This can be offered for any brand to do that, and really simply. So what we noticed is that if you're a restaurant that sells Coca-Cola only and you add this, it's incremental sales. You're not like cannibalizing your Coke sales. You're getting incremental high margin sales, and you tend to get more gross profit per drink than you would if it was Coca-Cola anyway. So it's pretty awesome, right? So that's not full automation, but it's highly automated, and it's incremental revenue and at a low cost.
Do you know anybody any restaurant brands that just added the BotRista?
Yeah. So it's at SeaWorld, which is probably where they sell the most drinks per machine. I think at Six Flags, Halal guys have been using it for quite a while. And there's some Asian restaurant brands. What's the BB.Q chicken? BBQ chicken is in Koreatown in New York, and they're expanding. I think they have a lot of locations worldwide, but they're expanding in the U.S. They have the BotRista machine too.
So automation in operations, and then also automation to help incremental sales. Mm-hmm. And those are big movers, big changes, big opportunities. Yeah. And then, so how do you align the adoption of this tech with brand values and customer expectations? Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to drinks, question? When it comes to drinks, that's what you need to be thinking about. Like, what drinks go with this food, and what what consumer do we want to attract with these drinks, right? Because you're going to be
Right.
bringing more people. People are going to be coming back to Halal Guys just for the drinks. So it's not only incremental sales on your drinks, but it's also incremental sales to get people to come back.
Right.
So yeah, I think what you do is you sit down with the barista people, and they have drink specialists, and they walk through, what pairs with which foods and what makes sense. Not a lot of bars want to put a machine right behind the bartender. It doesn't really make sense. People are there to see the theater of a handmade craft cocktail. But if someone's sitting on the patio, they don't know that it was made by a machine, right? Mm-hmm. And the machine, not only mixes it, but it blends it. So it's like a hand shaken cocktail anyway. It's a really good product. Brings out all the aromas and flavors.
I'm a golfer.
Uh-huh.
There should be a barista at every halfway house.
100%. And you can mix it with goose too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you need a drink on the golf course to loosen up the muscles to perform, right? But
yeah.
So they're not really focused on the alcohol segment right now, but I think that's a big opportunity for them too. But yes, they're looking at colleges, and that's the drink that young people want. But I think same thing on the golf course.
Are there any other metrics that you track in your space that ensure the investments are delivering, excellent ROI besides revenue growth and then operational cost reductions?
Yeah. So you kind of do a before and after A/B test, perhaps. You go, we're going to try the technology in this store, and we're not going to use it in this store. And you measure everything about that technology. What is it meant to do? Take voice AI, for example. One of my clients is Voice Plug AI, and Voice Plug does conversational AI. So when you call in to ask questions or place an order or book book a time, a reservation, they're able to do that with a bot having a conversation. It feels very natural. It's designed to be that way. Provides great customer service. It books your food. So the before and after is, well, before we couldn't get to all our phone calls, right?
Yeah.
And so we're missing revenue, and now we can't. You could just hire a person. Sure, you could hire a person. Why don't you A/B test that? We'll put a person here and a bot here and see what the results are. Provide great customer service. You fulfill the orders. You potentially program it to do some automated upsells. You know that phone number. You know that customer's order history. And you say, oh, would you like a milkshake with your burger? Because usually when they order a burger, they like to order a milkshake too, right?
They got you. They
got you, exactly. So all that said, like what did this technology do for our revenue? What did it do for our costs? Because the throughput is, theoretically in a drive-through, if you can get people moving faster, then there's going to be fewer people that drive by and go, the line's too long, I'm not going there, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? So you get more sales. Or your Chick-fil-A and you have double drive-through wrapped around the building twice, right? Either way, you're going to do fine. But yeah, so all those things go into it. And I think one thing that is maybe harder to measure is how much time did you think about and how much effort did you put into the technology itself, right? If you can measure that along with the ROI, then you really came to a calculation that you can say, okay, this was worth our time and effort.
So pretty simple metrics, right? Like, hey, what is it going to look like with a person versus a bot, and compare?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not rocket science.
I
could do it. I could do it. And you were talking about drive-through throughputs, and I know we referenced Chick-fil-A a bunch of times. And I used to be in the drive-through space in a prior world, and weird company that I was involved with, but I enjoyed it. And we would do drive-through studies and times, and Chick-fil-A, it's always about the perception of the time. As long as you see two drive-throughs and cars moving, you'll still stop. Even though Chick-fil-A's order time from when you place the order to pick it up, it's never in the top 50%. Yeah, I know. It shocked me. I'm like, wait, Chick-fil-A is super fast. It's always the perception. It's like, hey, you ordered either by greeted by a person or the speaker, and then you're moving, and you just don't feel stuck. You don't feel like you're waiting. If you ever have the perception of waiting, you find a place where you don't feel like you're waiting.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like another brand we talked about was Culver's. Culver's figured out a way because they make everything fresh. Mm-hmm. They wait to fire a burger until you order it. They don't just have burgers in the warmer. So it takes time. It's like a fast casual drive-through. And what they decided to do is they go, okay, we got to get this line moving. We got to get these orders and the perception of moving. So they did the iPads or the multiple drive-throughs, but then they created a huge stacking area, and a lot of restaurants now do this too, is they just give you like a sticky note on your mirror and say, you're 21, please pull ahead, we'll have your food up there when you're ready.
Yeah.
And then you wait sometimes 5 to 10 minutes.
Sure.
But, it works. But anyways, sorry, a little sidetrack there.
You're moving. Interesting facts.
Yeah. I can tell you all about that stuff. I mean, I've been removed from that for about 5 years, but worked with a lot of companies in drive-through performance and all that good stuff. But what other emerging technologies are you seeing out there? What's the next wave?
So a lot of restaurants struggle with their data, right? Chick-fil-A and Chipotle, Yum Brands, have invested hundreds of millions of dollars, it seems, from the outside perspective, into their data infrastructure, right? So capturing all their data, pipes and, data architecture to eventually make it useful for AI or machine learning, whatever you want to call it, right? So data insights that will help them drive operational improvements, that will help them, make decisions on who to hire, on how well their training is working, on how well one manager is performing versus another, which servers are outperforming other ones, which tables each server should, take, and things like that. AI has tremendous amount of power in the future of the restaurant industry, and that doesn't even start to talk about what you can do on the front of the house on marketing analytics and customer engagement and knowing your customer and engaging with them, right? So one of the technologies that I'm really excited about is ZagOps. ZagOps is solving the interoperability issue where you have 20 to 30 different systems in a given restaurant brand. And then if you're multi-unit franchisee, multi-brand franchisee, you have infinite number of technologies in your overall system. So this is going to be able to pull all the data from all the systems, use AI to help cleanse that data, because partially it's how you tag it, partially it's how the human, captures the data. If you don't capture the data, then it's gone. If you have a hamburger, you didn't specify what was on it, you lost information about your inventory, about your waste, about things that can matter in your analysis. So cleansing it and then essentially organizing it in a way that can be easily accessed for AI and machine learning. And this is a scalable system. So it can be plugged into a small operator, it can be plugged into a large operator. If you're a franchisee of one system, you can use it on all of your systems. So it's really exciting what they're working on, starting with single sign-on, which is already built and being tested in 500 locations. And then they're building on a couple other pieces, including a messaging aggregator. So you and I probably deal with this a lot. We get emails, texts, LinkedIn messages, maybe notices on Salesforce, all sorts of communication. And you're like, hey, where did Dave sent me something? Where was it? Can't find it. Well, this brings all the messages into one place and allows you to access the Dave Drinan file. Here it is, easy to find, right? And so all these things put together, they're making restaurant operators' lives easier, and then just paving the way, setting the foundation to use AI in the future. Because what we're seeing in AI in restaurants is very siloed. They're like, okay, we're going to solve we were talking about scheduling. Let's use AI to help us with scheduling. Okay, great. But there's other insights and tech and information that could be helpful, right? Across the entire organization. If you can link unstructured social media data to inform you about menu items and server issues and general manager issues that you can resolve real time, a tremendous amount of value to it, right?
I've heard of ZagOps.
Yeah.
I think we both, And as a service provider to the hospitality industry, I got excited about it because we have to access hundreds of different platforms to get our data that we need to execute our job.
Yeah.
Anything from, the third party delivery providers to inventory systems to point of sale systems to everything. And then it's like, oh, well, we have a top line BI tool that actually takes this, and this. I'm like, well, we're missing this data, so we got to go get that. We got to go here. We got to go there. And it's just like, wow. And it's so individualized and, like you said, siloed by our clients.
Yeah.
So we have controls in place, obviously, to go get that data and then do what we need to do with the data.
Yeah.
Now, like in a dream world, ZagOps comes along. Mm-hmm. We have single sign-on. We have single access to all the data, possibly AI to digest the data for us that we can do our job. And that would be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
That would be amazing. Because I remember having a conversation with that gentleman, and I was just all like, you need to be talking to financial firms. You need to be talking to reporting, tools, and you need to be talking to inventory platforms. And he already said he was. But I'm like, these companies are all the ones that are trying to aggregate data as well.
Yeah.
Because
the way I describe it is really operational. It's like bringing a real-time insight into a general manager. So the general manager doesn't have to be in the back office looking at charts and graphs and trying to disseminate the data and try to make decisions off of that. General managers go into restaurants and hospitality for one reason. It's because they're good with people, right? They're good with their customers. They should touch every table. They should be watching their employees and coaching them and instructing them on how to do their jobs better. That's where they belong, but they're in the back office looking at data. They're not necessarily trained on it yet. Some are, some aren't, right? And they may be making the wrong decisions based on what they're seeing. AI trained and, properly deployed can provide that. But I think your point is beyond just the day-to-day real-time improvements you can make there's the financial reporting, there's the tax form, there's the compliance, like all of this stuff that accounting firms need to deal with, and that board level and owners who want to see what's going on in the business, they need that type of reporting. It definitely makes everyone's life easier to get that information in the right place.
Yeah. I mean, and you mentioned it, the Yums of the world and Chick-fil-A's of the world already tried to build this out. And
it's hard. It's expensive.
And it's very individualistic to their franchise. And
100%.
And you got teams like our clients, they're like, okay, they have 100 Yum locations, but then they also have 60 other ones. So it's not solving the problem still. It's good for Yum, but it's what are we doing here? And what about hey, we also have some car washes and some Jiffy Lubes, and we've got some other things, and it's like this encompasses everything, and this it's a brilliant idea. I'm excited about it.
Likewise.
We'll see if we can get our hands on it.
Yeah,
We'll
for
see.
sure.
Yeah.
Do it.
So how do you, I mean, we've talked a lot about technology, right?
Yep.
And then how technology could help ROI, obviously, and then investing into the space and all that good stuff. But on my last podcast, I was talking with, and it's R365. It's a firm we use for their accounting platform. They have an operations, labor, payrolls. They're kind of trying to be a nucleus of all restaurant operations as well. And what they mentioned was, look, there's so much technology out there, and you can't be the one to make the wrong decision on technology. And I was like, that's a lot of pressure on people. It's a lot of pressure to pick and choose. So
It's a full-time job, and
yeah.
you got to run.
So
a
how do
restaurant.
you, like, being in the space, David, how do you balance innovation with practical implementation? Just because we want it and it's cool, how do you balance that with practical implementation into what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah. I think, any given organization is going to have its priorities of the moment, right? And so, in a perfect world, you're identifying, investment of time and potentially money, and prioritizing the ones that are going to give you the best payback, the best return on investment, right? So you don't know until you do it, but you want to have a discipline that says, okay, if you go back in time, COVID hit and everybody had to implement digital ordering technology. They didn't have a choice, right? It's like the only way you're going to sell any food is if you sell it online, right? So there's that. And then there's, okay, what should we know about our customers? You've got great customer relationship management databases out there, and marketing analytics platforms and things like that. Is that going to be a priority, or are you going to do something else? And I think that became a priority after the pandemic. And then all of a sudden people were dealing with inflation. So what should I be doing on inventory management and reducing waste? And what should I be doing to purchase better, right? That technology was really important at the time. And then labor, right? It was hard to find anybody who wanted to work in a restaurant after everybody was laid off during COVID. Did they really want to come back to this industry? It's a tough job, right? So labor, hiring, labor training, labor staffing, scheduling, all those technologies were really important. So part of it's what's going on in the industry at the moment, and part of it's where do you see the biggest opportunity? So if I can reduce my cost of, beverages, or I can bring in incremental margin, well, the incremental margin might be the better decision. Not everyone's always thinking about it in the holistic way, right? Sometimes they're looking at it as, all right, what should we do next? Or what's on our schedule here next? I'm sure you see it too. I'm sure you see the same thing.
Yeah, I definitely do,
Yeah.
and I get involved with, so let's put innovation aside just for a second. So BlackThorne, you guys are very involved in the technology space, and you're utilizing that to help restaurants in their turnaround plan. And they do that by operational efficiencies and incremental revenue growth, like you said. Now, what happens, you guys also offer something for, say, the restaurant firm that is just so stubborn, they don't want to implement technology. They're like, look, we've been so good for 30 years by having Nancy answer the phone and Susie take the order and Tim make the pizza. What do you focus on there? Like, how do you take a look at that company and say, how am I going to turn around that company?
I don't know. I don't think I've tried to solve that one yet. No, it's generally there's a reason why someone would hire us, right? So
Yeah.
if they're perfectly fine, they're making their $500,000 a year, and that's all they want to make, and they don't have any growth, desires or profit enhancement desires, they're great, right? And it's funny, sometimes technology butts up against a philosophy of an operator, right? So there's like dynamic pricing and there's automated upsells. And there are organizations out there who are like, upsell is the antithesis of who we are and why we have customers coming back all the time, right? So you've got, it's called value, right? And so if you've got value consumer and they come back because they got a good, experience and food and quantity and everything that matters to them at the right price, well, then you don't want to necessarily upsell them. So it's interesting, right? It's interesting how people can draw a line and where technology needs to stop. And when it comes to like kiosks, that's a really interesting line, because there's a huge amount of value to a restaurant operator putting a kiosk up, because people buy more when they see pictures. They're like, oh wow, I didn't know they had that. Oh wow, that looks good. I'm definitely into a shake now. I'm gonna get that one, right? And so they get, I don't know, 15% higher sales because of the kiosk, plus they're reducing their labor. Well, do the math, it's amazing. But what happened to the customer experience?
Right.
In that situation, there could be zero human contact. You walk through Manhattan, from top of Manhattan to bottom of Manhattan, you see lots and lots of people, right? Hundreds of thousands of people. But you may not even made eye contact with any of them or said hello to any of them the entire way. Then you go into an establishment and you order from a kiosk and there's no smile. There was no human contact. There was no even small talk, nothing, right? And so is that the world we want to live in? Is that what hospitality is becoming? I don't know, right? It's a really interesting question. And, working with a fully autonomous restaurant, I feel like if you're going to put a kiosk up, you might as well just go fully autonomous.
Well, that kind of goes back to the balancing of the innovation and the practical implementation.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you draw the line? Where do you want to go? And it's kind of like, hey, look, if you're going to dip your toe in the pool, might as well just jump full in. I hate kiosks, just to let you know. I hate them.
I'm generally not a fan. I went to a coffee place and I'm like, oh, I got to try it. I know a lot of people in the tech space. I'm like, I got to try their kiosk. And I'm like, oh, they're right. Like I didn't know they had breakfast sandwiches here. It says it right up there, but I never noticed it. Yeah. So it looked good. I ordered it. I went there like 4 or 5 times to get the breakfast sandwich. I'm like, wow.
I get it. I know they work, but I don't like them. I want to order.
It was actually, I think it was the right kind of hybrid too, where they had it available if you didn't want to stand in the line, and otherwise you could stand in the line and hopefully get a smile or a hello, right?
That's the best.
So it's like choose your own adventure is probably a really smart way to approach that.
That's what a lot of the Taco Bells are doing around here. They're like, look, if you know your order or you're savvy with the technology, here's a kiosk. And if you don't want anybody, if you want somebody to order from, they're going to be there. But what I noticed, I go to Taco Bell once in a while, is they're running that place so thin with people, and it's amazing. There's like 4 people doing a lunch rush. I'm like, how is that possible?
Nuts.
So then you got to
have a robot back
somebody.
there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, you got to get somebody's attention to get your order if you can't use the kiosk. And it's
right.
But it is what it is. Anyways, we all have kiosks in our hands now with our iPhones and our Androids and all that stuff. So that's I do a lot of online.
And we're dating ourselves by complaining about not getting a smile, because some people don't want that. I think some young people are just like, please, I don't want to see anybody. I just want my phone in my face. Right?
Yeah, they just want to look down. And then they want their food delivered to their lap so they don't get interrupted with the next TikTok video or whatever they watch. I don't know. But maybe that's the way it's going. We have no idea. But hey, let me ask you one last question. Let's get out of here for the day. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
what's your dream restaurant turnaround scenario?
It's interesting. So, I was dreaming about California Pizza Kitchen a bit. Like, remember how innovative it was and how cool it was and how it just kind of, I think maybe the color scheme and the service levels and all that stuff kind of just went slowly away, and it wasn't somewhere that you necessarily wanted to be. So, starting with customer experience, operational excellence as a starting point, and then bringing some really cool innovation in, right? So maybe lean into the California and offer some things beyond pizza. Update the menu, of course, update the uniforms, update the look and the feel, make it fresh, and and then at that point you've got two ways to go as far as service. You want to be like relatively quick, people in and out, you're going to do more delivery and you're going to do more of that, which is certainly the trend overall. Or do you want to be like, create such a cool atmosphere that people want to come in there and have some drinks, right? And stick around for a while and reconnect with their friends. And I suppose in this world, you can do either or in both. But yeah, I know that they've got some structural issues. They're in a lot of malls that are on the decline. So I'm not sure how feasible it is to, lead that turnaround. But it's one that captivates me as a brand that still has nostalgia, still has value, and still could be something really cool.
Well, let's make a few phone calls.
Sounds good. You know somebody?
I used to, back in like 2015, I used to know their chief marketing officer, and that's when they were doing really well. And they had this big growth plan, and we got involved in some projects, but not anymore. So, and you know what? That's why they're kind of maybe are in need of you now, is because they got rid of me 9 years ago.
That's it.
So
that's it. Cause and correlation right there.
Yeah, right. So
this was great.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And it's great. And, for all our listeners out there, if you want to get a hold of David, ask him some more questions about his investments in technology, his restaurant turnaround success, and all those good things. Just look him up on LinkedIn or online. His company's BlackThorne Strategic. That's correct, right, David?
Yep, Strategic Advisors.
Yep. Okay. Cool. And it's David Drinan. You'll see all of his name and all that good stuff in the episode recap. And anything else you want to leave us with, David, before we let you go?
No, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate the time and looking forward to meeting more people through this. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Great. Have a good weekend, David. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in to The Financial Advantage with GSS, the video series for restaurant CFOs and financial professionals striving for operational excellence and strategic success. If you found this episode insightful, don't forget to subscribe to The Financial Advantage with GSS on your preferred platform, or visit gsslp.com for additional resources. We'll see you next time.